Hello, and thanks for coming back to check out Jay's bass channel. And today we have a legendary bass, which is the G&L 2000. The G&L is obviously the final company that the famous Leo Fender designed basses for and did until his death. And for those of you who are keeping up with current events, not that awful long after the passing of the great Leo Fender, G&L actually went out of business and their assets were acquired by Fender. And now we're looking to see what Fender is going to bring back from the G&L legacy. So after, Fender sold the Fender company in '65, he worked on Music Man's through the late '70s, and sometimes in the early '80s. I think these basses came out in '81. This particular bass, this L2000, I think I dated around '83, '84, and you can see it's not the very first year because the very first years didn't have this little barb. This barb was added on because there was a lawsuit with Fender about these things. But that's a little history of this bass. So I think of all the G&L basses, though, this is the one that really is the definitive bass. There are a lot of basses. They had numerous models. This, and there was another model that was called the L1000, which we will do a video on soon. I own one of those. Basically, the L1000 looked like that. It's just a single pickup model. So it's kind of like a Music Man, except instead of having the pickup back close to the bridge, they moved it up here for a bigger, thicker sound and not quite as much articulation and mid-range like you get from these back pickups. Okay, so one thing about the L2000 is an active bass. As you can see, it's got a battery compartment in the back. And I just looked it up to see exactly what these switches do. Of course, you have your volume, treble, and bass knobs. Here you have a pickup selector, and when we heard me play on the video, it was in the middle position, so you heard me play on both pickups. Also, there's a series parallel switch. I think this is the parallel switch in the front position that I had the pickups in. And back here we have a treble boost. We have the regular active position, and in the back position with this back switch, we have passive version. So I would tend to probably be more like on just the straight active or the passive. One thing you'll notice about, say, here is the if you go to passive, it's a little less output. Let's see. Not a whole lot of difference there. The treble boost, though, you can definitely tell, like treble boost. Now these aren't super fresh strings here. I put new strings on this bass, went and played a couple of gigs with a band called Space Coke, and then put this bass back in the case, and this bass has not been played in probably 2 years or something like that. So it's just been sitting and not getting a lot of action. But this is a great bass to leave sitting like that. So let's listen to a little bit, some more stuff this has got going on. So obviously you can tell by my other videos, I probably lean toward playing mostly with this pickup to lean toward more of a precision-esque sound, you know, a big sound on the low end. So let's check that out. I'm gonna go back to the middle position here and the forward position on the series parallel. I think the parallel is what I like here the most. But here's just your bass pickup. Now you add both pickups together. Of course, you go to the back position, it's going to thin out a lot. But you notice that that back pickup has a very cool sound. It doesn't have enough low end by itself, but check out when you add it in to the low. So here's your low, when I say low is your neck pickup here, closest to the neck. You're gonna get the more low end. And then you add the pickup. It definitely adds a certain sort of cool mid-range, and it dips out a little bit too, as often happens when you add a bridge pickup in. But what I find, I'm not much of a slap player. But that's in the both position, but you go here. That still sounds pretty cool, but it sounds a little cooler when you add the back pickup in. So this was definitely, if you want a really flexible bass and you want to kind of switch from maybe rock stuff like in a cover band or something like that, you know, just play some real rock. Thing, just plain rock stuff like that, and then switch back here to go. That sounds, I think, sounds really cool. I don't think you'd ever really want to play a whole lot on the very far back position by itself, but this bass definitely brings a lot of value as far as flexibility. I think this is as flexible a bass as I would ever want to own if I did need to play slap style and finger style in the same, at the same time. I'm not much of a believer in stomping on a bunch of pedals and compressors and things like that in my floor pedals and such like that. I'm really going to deal with the instrument itself and how I play it. Not that, I'm not discounting use of pedals or anything like that, but personally, I don't use a lot of things like that live. Of course, when I record, when I mix things, of course, I've got compressors on the bass and all that sort of stuff, and I usually track bass in the studio through an analog 1176 compressor or something of that nature. But this is just a great bass. It's a very old bass. Like I said, I think this is an 82 or 83. And something about these old basses, man, the neck just feels so rock solid. And I don't know if it's just because they've aged or the wood available or what it is, but man, this thing really feels good. If you can ever acquire a G&L from this early era, I can definitely recommend it. I have owned L2000s from later on, and there's a certain little magic to the feel of these things. And I'll let you see some more stuff we got going on here. It's got some really good tuners. These are great quality tuners. Not quite as hefty as some of the vintage Fenders. And it's a very interesting bridge. Look like it's kind of painted black here, but it's a really robust bridge. These things never move. They stay solid. It's not like you play for a couple of months and have to readjust it. These are just rock solid basses. Obviously, they got a 3-bolt neck on them. And man, these things just go and go and go. Unfortunately, my L1000 is not available right now. It actually does have an electronics problem I'm getting sorted out, but it's actually from the first year of manufacture and it doesn't have the barb. So we'll be getting something from there soon. But I don't know if there's really a lot more to talk about with this bass. This bass is not particularly heavy. It's probably 9.5 pounds. It's got great balance. I'd be happy to go out and gig any style of music, rock, country, funk. If you played a house of worship or something like that, I just can't imagine any gig this bass wouldn't cover unless you needed a 5-string. And I'm an old school 4-string player, so I'm going to, be talking mostly about 4-string basses. And only way in the future, maybe I'll bring some 5s in and try to get my head around what goes on with 5-string basses, because I'll be learning right along with some of you guys on that, because I do not gig with 5 strings, and I've never even recorded one song. Of course, I've picked them up and played them. So 5 strings are off the table for me right now. This is more of a 4-string bass channel. But like I said, you see, that's the kind of mid-range dipped sound. And here's with the mid-range back in by just going to the neck pickup. When you play those higher notes, you definitely hear that kind of mid-range dip. It's not an extreme difference, but it's definitely, to my ear, is a big difference. Anyway, there's the G&L 2000. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. And I don't know how much more to say about it is. Obviously, these guys, maybe we could talk about the pickups. These are some sort of humbuckers or something. They don't make any noise. They're quiet. They're big, powerful-looking pickups. They're great. One thing that's negative about this bass is if these pickups were ever to go bad or you want to replace them, there's not a lot of ready replacements that are exactly the same size that'll drop in. So with these basses, these are not like Fenders where you mod them and buy new bridges and swap out 20 different brands of pickups. These basses are probably going to need to stay stock, but luckily they don't need replacement pickups. So there is that. All right. That's my final thoughts on the G&L 2000. Thanks again for following Jay's Bass channel, and please help me out and subscribe and keep an eye out for the tip of the day. I'm dropping a tip of the day, bass tip of the day every day, so be sure and subscribe to get that. See ya.